Hello again. I would like to welcome Mrs. Ilaria Danesi from the Danesi Coffee. And we're very honored to have you here. So if you please, you can start your speech. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me here and for being here. I am going to just speak about a little bit about the main efforts in sourcing and buying sustainable coffee. And I do not pretend to be so exhaustive in this important topic, but just to strengthen the need of really a concrete call to action from everybody to contribute to the sustainability of coffee sector and in general to all agricultural sector all over the world. Let's start with about some coffee sector main key points. As you know, coffee is a global traded commodity and the most popular beverage worldwide, with an estimated 400 billion cups consumed per year. And it is produced in more than 30 countries all over the world, and by an estimated 12.5 million household coffee farmers, out of which 95% are smaller than 5 hectares and 84% are smaller than 2 hectares, which presumably they produce the greatest portion of specialty coffee. And the remaining, the percentage of the global supply is produced by these smallholders, and the remaining 30% is produced by large estates bigger than 50 hectares, and which are a common feature just in Central and South America. The 75% of the coffee that is produced globally is exported, generating a total revenue of 200 and actually are more than $200 billion in the period 2015 and 2020, according to the figure that I found from literature. What about global coffee demand? According to ICO, International Coffee Organization, the global consumption has grown in the past 2 decades at a rate of 2% annually. And even according to ICO estimate for the coffee year 2020-2021, the coffee consumption will be growth at a rate equal to 3.3%. European Union and North America are the largest coffee markets in the world, even though they account today 50% of the global coffee consumption, and in 2000 they were accounting 60% of the global coffee consumption. So the growth rate of their consumption is declined, but the steady growth of the global coffee consumption is driven by emerging markets like Middle East and Asia. We can say that consumers today still like to buy the coffee that they consume in the supermarket, and they like to consume it at home. So we can assume that between a percentage from 60 to 80% is consumed at home in the form of roast and ground. At-home consumption implies what? Low-value roasted brand, high-quality packaged coffee and single-serve like caps and pods, capsules and pods, instant coffee and ready-to-drink. It's very important to say that this coffee beverage has been sold to the consumers at a very low price, but they have a key influence in the global value chain of coffee, of course. What about the remaining percentage of the coffee that is consumed all over the world? The around percentage from 25, as an average 30% of global coffee consumption is consumed out of home, in hotel, restaurant, coffee shop, work, specialty chain, and so on. In this segment, it's very important to stress that quality and differentiation is, and consumer experience play a very significant role, with the result that consumers spend a great portion of their coffee budget out of home. Take a look at this figure, where it's been shown the coffee prices of the past 10 years in relation to world consumption and coffee production. In 2020, the coffee prices that is represented by the International Coffee Organization composite indicator, the average composite indicator, have been around 107 cents per pound. And if we do not consider the strong growth of coffee prices that we have witnessed and recorded from the second half of 2021, 2020 has been the third year in a row where coffee prices remain up to 30% below the average of the price level in the past 10 years. And it means that these low prices has been negatively affecting the profitability of coffee farmers, of the vast majority of coffee farmers all over the world, since they are very small, as we have mentioned before. So at this very low price, coffee is not profitable for the vast majority of farmers. But consider that the export value, the total green coffee that is produced from producing countries, the value is equal to $20 billion and represent around 10% of the total revenue generated in the coffee retail market. That is the big ball, the orange ball that, as I have mentioned it, it's worth $200 billion. And if we see the investment, total investment in sustainability efforts that account for 350 million per year, they represent a percentage of just 0.15% of the total coffee sector size, of the total size. So this continued profits and investment generated closer to the consumer and to the coffee chain contrast sharply with the difficult situation that farmers are experiencing at origin in the past and in the recent years. So there are a lot of sustainability, a lot of challenges that the coffee sector and producers are facing at origin. Here I have listed some, like groundwater contamination, soil erosion, deforestation linked to desertification, contamination of water, gender inequality between men and women, low prices, aging farmers, weak rejuvenation of plantation. So the rate of the age of the plant is the plants are very old, and so their production and the yield of the plant is reduced, with the consequences of low yield for farmers. And especially the loss of biodiversity and loss of non-commercial variety, local varieties, that can be very useful to be for the adaptation of climate change to climate change by the producers, because some non-commercial and local varieties that are grown in local environment, they could be very useful to implement coffee varieties that can be drought resistant, heat tolerant, or tolerant to the disease. So some experts, I would say many experts, the vast majority of experts are predicting that by 2050, the area where coffee now is growing won't be any more suitable to grow Arabica coffee in the next 30 years. So having said that, we have to say that we must say that producers are shoulder the greatest risk in the coffee chain if you consider to market volatility and if you consider to the effect of climate change. And even though some efforts and sincere efforts has been made from company at an industry level to promote sustainability of this sector, the fact is that to contribute to the resiliency of the coffee producers is become imperative to really reach a more sustainable coffee sector. Sustainability as a concept has three main pillars, three main components, which are environment, social, and economic. All these three components are derived from a main concept of sustainable development. That is an economic development which is at the same time environmentally sustainable and socially inclusive. When we speak about environment sustainability, first and foremost, we have to specify that the main sustainable issues in environment come from farming at large scale, not from smaller one. And the environment sustainability means to maintain and aim to maintain natural biological cycles and to produce resilient ecosystem through the adoption of agronomic practices that are sustainable, like permanent shade in the coffee plantation, cover crops, to implement practices that are not harmful for the soil, the reduced use of agrochemical inputs, and all that activities that promote the biodiversity in where coffee is grown. And the last but not least, the reduction of greenhouse gas emission. When we speak about social sustainability, we intend all the standard of living. We care about the standard of living to promote and implement the standard of living of coffee farmers and their livelihoods. And also the community around, the community of the producers where coffee is grown. So we are referring to stable employment and especially to pay workers in a decent way. When we then speak about economic sustainability, we refer usually to the ability of coffee producers and coffee farmers and coffee workers to earn decently from their respective role in coffee production to live life with dignity. So we usually take into consideration living income and wage income. And it's a matter of fact that today the vast majority of farm workers are not paid decently and are not earning a living income to live life in a dignity way. So we have to admit that all of us, any actors up and down the coffee value chain, share responsibility in order to better integrate these three main components of sustainability in the coffee industry to reach a more sustainable sector. Upstream actors, producers and cooperatives, because they have a significant role in adopting sustainable agronomic practices and to ensure that farmers are paying decently. Midstream and downstream actors like traders, roasters, retailers, and even consumers play a significant role, as we are going to see shortly. And also actors outside the global chain, like governments, they have their legal duties, and also they have commitments under the UN Sustainable Development Goals to ensure that the community of coffee farmers can at least have access to basic services like healthcare, housing, food, clean water, and food security. So everyone has a responsibility in doing this. What about the midstream and downstream actors along the coffee chain? In response of consumer expectations concerning ethical and responsibility, to address sustainability challenges at industry level, I'm speaking about roasters and industry in general, they have really implemented sustainability strategies, their own sustainability strategy, combining in a various way, depending on the company, their location, their size, different interventions, like implementing the code of conduct or implementing corporate sustainability, corporate social responsibility programs, or implementing projects in direct relation with producers at origin, or adopting the voluntary sustainable standards, which are very important in this industry because all of these standards offer guidelines to produce, to sell, and to purchase a coffee identified as ethical, responsible, and attentive to and complying with particular specifications related to agronomic, social, and environmental issues. And the compliance to these standards is verified by an independent auditor. Among the main sustainability standards, I have listed the main known in the coffee sector, like fair trade, 4C, woods and rainforest that merged in 2018, organic coffee, and also the initiatives that has been taken at industry level by large industries like Caffe practices implemented by Starbucks and the AAA quality coffee, sustainable quality program implemented by Nespresso. And then I would like to mention another one, the other initiative that has been implemented even at industry level regarding work coffee research that is specialized in studying the genetics of the plant in order to ensure in the future the coffee supply and also to ensure coffee production from farmers, giving to them the genetic material that could be grown taking into account climate change effects. here I have prepared some positive impact of the adoption of voluntary sustainable standard, and a very mixed and negative impact from this adoption. Of course, there are a lot of opportunities for producers to gain real benefit from the growing demand of certified coffee from producers. And of course, all the producers that apply this certification standard can have benefit in terms of improving their yielding, and as a consequence to improve the quality of the coffee that they produce, improve the price of the coffee that they gain, and so at the end improving their income. And also, for example, the standards requiring from some certification standard like rainforest that require to producers to afforest their plantation, or to plant new tree in their plantation, for sure benefits the farmer, keeping, for example, soil humid, and keep the biodiversity of the environment where coffee is grown, and supporting them to be resilient to climate change. And of course, the success of all these standards, and this is very important, depend on company, and I would say also consumers' willingness to pay higher prices, especially companies to pay higher price to source that kind of coffee certified. On the other side, on the opposite side, there are also a lot of negative impact from the adoption of this kind of standard. There are, for example, one main issue is that the higher prices that has been paid from companies is not evidence that in many cases it translates to gain higher income for producer. It doesn't mean that for producer they will earn higher income. And or for example, cost of certification can be higher if we compare the cost that they have to bear and to support regarding the benefits that they receive, or a broader criticism to the standard is that these additional retail costs are captured by large roaster and retail chain, and the higher income doesn't go, the higher prices doesn't go in a big proportion to the producer. Or another one is that this standard do not benefit and ignore the weakest and more marginalized producers that live in remote area of coffee production, where there are no infrastructure, no connection, no roads to reach them. And also tension between standards, because in the last years we have witnessed an evolution of almost all the standards, but some of them are requiring too much complex mechanism to which producers have to apply, and maybe it can erase the benefits that they receive. Or some other times these standards require less rigorous standards, and in this case it may mean this fact can cover up a business as usual approach to that company. They want to be sustainable, but in real terms they are not sustainable. They are not doing nothing concretely to contribute to the sustainability of the farmers. So from academic study, there is evidence that voluntary sustainable standards are not an adequate tool to address sustainability in the coffee sector. I found this interesting figure from the report Coffee Barometer of 2020, where all the mentioned standards have managed to implement and to grow the coffee, the volume of the coffee certified at farm level. But if we look at the number, in the past years, the growth rate of the volume of coffee that has been certified at farm level has slowed down, and in some cases have even declined. And this is quite critical, because in 2019 and 2020, 55% of global coffee production has been certified at farm level, but only 25% of this coffee, if we take into consideration the global coffee that is traded worldwide, is coffee that has been sold as such, so it's coffee certified. And what the industry are claiming, that the coffee, the very small percentage of coffee that around the world is sold as certified coffee, is because there is two main reasons: lack of purchasing commitment from industry to pay and to buy and to source this coffee, and they are arguing because there is a low demand for certified coffee from consumers. So, of course, it's voluntary sustainable standard is not a magic formula, because in the coffee sector, we are still experiencing rampant poverty among producers, their vulnerability to climate change, and a lack of access to many producers to basic services. Even though we have to admit that have been made sincere efforts at industry level to address this matter, but it's not working. Something more has to be done. And however, having said that, voluntary sustainable standards are still the most crucial, the most important tool that companies today have if they want to be more sustainable. Even the result, the outcomes are not having so big impact, and especially for the smaller actor of the coffee chain, because they, and I'm referring to small companies, because they do not have enough power to exercise through the coffee value chain governance. And these standards are also still important as the main tool to address sustainability in the coffee sector, also for consumers, if they really want to give their contribution to the resiliency and sustainability of the coffee sector. So traders, roasters, and retailers should improve, of course, still should have to improve their sourcing practices and increase sustainability investment. For example, reach maybe one global fair price or sustainability price, or pay a meaningful premium or a meaningful high prices to producers, to let producers to grow coffee in a sustainable manner, or build a long-term relationship with producers, transferring knowledge and train producers to a better and sustainable agronomic practices, as many large and small companies are already doing, of course. And or transfer new information technology at farm level, especially to the remotest growers that live up to the mountain, that cannot have infrastructure and technology to access, and so to increase their income and even their sustainability practices. Or implement some other strategies like direct trader, single origin marketing, and especially increase the transparency of the farm gate prices that have been paid to the producer, because it's a matter of fact that it's very difficult for large and also for small company to really buy all the coffee from individual producers, and this could result in a lack of transparency of what is the farm gate price that is paid to producers and the farm wage that has been paid to the workers. And from a study that has been conducted about the sustainability strategy of the companies, it emerged that the awareness and the knowledge of main stakeholders of the coffee chain play a very important influence for the companies to adopt sustainability strategies. So it's very, very important to increase stakeholders' awareness about sustainability strategy as a driving force to reach more sustainable coffee sector. And here I want to stress the fact that also the consumer play a very significant role, that is to become more discerning of what the product they buy. Consumers, when go to the supermarket to buy a coffee, they should be aware of main features about coffee that they are buying, like farming method and the origin of the coffee, but especially if that coffee is really benefit coffee farmers at origin, or who produced that coffee. Of course, other than choose the best sustainable way to prepare it. And in my opinion, what I want to pass on to you as a last message, that every one of us has to pay more attention to what we like, because our individual decision can play a big role, especially when we want to, in the action to buy coffee, we really can make the difference and give a concrete contribution to the sustainability of coffee sector. I was talking yesterday with my friend Yannis, and we were talking about the new laboratory outcomes about taking and drinking the coffee comes from a chemical job at laboratory level. I really hope that in the future we can continue to drink coffee coming from a plant. Thank you very much.
Υπάρχει κάποια ερώτηση?
All is clear. All is clear.
All is clear.
Also my English is clear.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.